Hello, hello, hello. How are y'all doing? I'm very excited for this. I feel a little lost without my sidekick here. I'm used to streaming with Mary. It's weird to be on here by myself. I got to zoom in the chat a little bit so I can keep an eye on y'all over there. What drink did I get? I don't know yet. For those of you who don't know, apparently Mary will be bringing me a surprise during the stream here, so we'll all get to find out a little bit later on here what we're going to be getting. I don't know at the moment, though. All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is going to be building your own API with Ryan. I will try and walk you through everything here. I think the first caveat I want to give, I'm not a professional developer. I go to a lot of hackathons though, and I know enough to be dangerous is often how I describe myself. And hopefully that gets us through today. My game plan is to just get a really simple API up and running using Python and Flask. And if you don't know what those are yet, don't sweat it. And then after we get that API up and running, we'll do a couple of little like challenges. We might take some suggestions from the crowd. My goal though is for everybody here to be able to follow along, and we're going to take this nice and slow. Our content here is mostly from quick start guides and things like that. So it should be something that everybody can get through at home. And that's kind of my hope here. I want you all to walk away with something that is kind of live on the internet. Sound good? All right. Oh, somebody saw me at Rowdy Hacks. What up? Hello. I'm glad to see you again here. Hello to everybody in the crowd. You are going to need to download Python if you don't have that, and then everything else will download as we kind of go along here. So, and 404 is here as my, at 404, you can be my honorary sidekick for the stream here. I'll look to you for assistance. You can be my backup here in place of Mare. I appreciate you. Cool. She is not. She literally left. She was like, see you later. She called me a nerd as she walked away. Mary is not in the office anymore. Don't listen to her. I'm going to post the link to my session here so y'all can go to that link, and we're going to get registered and checked in for the events. And I'm actually going to do this live on stream so y'all see how to do it. We're just going to hit register. And then we're going to hit register and check in, and we are good to go. Once I can see there's a green join online event button, we have got what we need. So make sure you have this, and let me get some like thumbs up or some, I don't know, whatever reaction you like in chat when you're checked in. Let me know that you're good to go here. Bam. And could people use Replit if they don't have Python downloaded? I'm fairly confident you could use Replit for this. The practice I did was on my local machine, but if you want to use Replit and you're comfortable with that, by all means, yeah, 100%. We're getting some reactions in chat. Thank you all, you're heroes. Appreciate you all. This is my first streak of 3 sessions back to back. Never felt so pumped before. Great. We're using Python. I got to be honest, I don't know what Python build tools are. My assumption is that we are not, but I actually don't know. We'll find out together. If you don't have Python downloaded, that is going to be our first step here. And let me zoom in a little bit for everybody at home. And you just yell at me today if my font is too small at any point for y'all. But I'm just going to go to python.org/downloads, and I'll post that in chat for everybody at home. And you can go ahead and download Python. I'm going to be doing this workshop on Windows. That's what I personally use. I'll be answering some questions from that kind of Windows user perspective. I'll do my best to help out people on Mac and Linux, but I do have the most familiarity with Windows as well. Whatever we build along with you, we have to submit it. Also, we will submit at the end. So I actually have a notes doc going here. Let me get this on stream for you all. We'll a little bit of some spoilers in here, but that's okay. We'll add submit on dev post to the end of our stream goals here. So, and I'll blow that up for everybody at home as well. So one of my goals for this workshop is to keep a collection of every link that we use so that we can share it with people afterwards if they want to follow along at home. So y'all are going to have to keep me honest with that one as well. Nick asking me how many viewers I have here. Don't worry about the views right now. It's views over the total day, as what I was told the record was, which is why we're making notes for future viewers and things. We're going to reel them in over time. So, all right. So once you've got, I know Python's going to take a hot minute for people to download. Once you do have it downloaded, we're going to start in the command prompt here, or the terminal if you're on Mac or Linux. But I'm going to go ahead and get a command prompt opened up here. And I personally do prefer command prompt over PowerShell. But if you are using PowerShell and know what you're doing, that is A-OK. I like command prompt personally, though. Share the second link, please. The second link will come in a little bit. Don't worry. I just got that ready ahead of time. All right. Awesome. What version of Python should I install? I just go with the latest here. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Whatever the latest is going to be A-OK for what we're doing here today. The goal here is like nice and simple. Everything is, we're literally going to follow like the Flask intro documentation. So and I keep saying Flask without actually explaining it. Flask is a framework for Python that helps you make really quick websites. It's one of my favorite hackathon tools. It was actually the first hackathon tool I ever used. And so I'm excited to show it to y'all today. We'll get to use that and just make a very, very quick local website. And we're actually going to try and deploy it as well. Perfect. All right. So once you have Python downloaded and installed, you want to make sure that it's accessible on your path, or you want to make sure that your computer actually recognizes the command. So if you just run Python, You can see here for me that, and let me blow that up again for y'all at home. So you can see here on screen that I actually am able to run Python. And I'm going to go ahead and exit from this. And to exit, you're just going to do exit and then 2 parentheses, and that should get you out of there. Somebody asking, is Flask still in trend? My understanding is there's is Fast API the name of it? Is like another popular tool right now, and there's also what's the really popular one? It's not. Is it Django? Is that the Python one? Someone's gonna have to help me out in chat. I can look it up, but there's another Python web framework that's very popular. It's Django. Thank you. It is just much bigger and more complex, is my understanding of it, and so I've never really bothered with it. I've always stuck with Flask because I don't do, air quotes, real development here. I mostly just do small hacks for myself. Cool. So we've got Python installed. We're good to go there. Anyone still getting that installed at home? We'll keep an eye on chat there. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to have to install Flask and some other tools here, but we're going to use something called virtual environments in Python to keep our file structure neat and tidy. And again, my goal here is to make this kind of follow along at home. And so we're going to actually grab some documentation on virtual environments. If you've never heard of virtual environments before, don't worry, I wouldn't worry too much about how I knew about them. I learned about them from doing development in the past, and here I'm telling you about them. They're just going to help us keep all the packages we use kind of neat and tidy and in their own little space as we go through and install. And I see some people are still installing Python. That's a-okay as well. I'm going to go nice and slow here. We've got a full 2 hours. We're only 10 minutes in, so we're going to be a-okay. I will post this in chat for y'all as well. And font still bigger, you got it. And do a little bit of that. Great. Yeah, exactly. We're definitely not building production level code here in 2 hours. My goal is literally to get you through the literally the resource we're going to use for most of this workshop is just the quick start on Flask. And so that'll actually walk us through most of what we want to do here. I just want to kind of go through that with you and actually help you submit that challenge for Global Hack Week here. So we are going to switch back over to terminal or command prompt, and I'm going to make a new folder. And so if you're not familiar with command prompt, you can do this using your Windows Explorer as well if you feel more comfortable with that. I'll throw this on screen real quick. And so you could come in here and make like a new folder like you normally would on your machine. I'm going to do it through command prompt. If you want to learn how to do that, I'll do it alongside with you here. And let me make that a tiny bit bigger for everybody at home. How's that? That look good? All right. I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change directories or CD into my development folder. So I have a folder called dev. It's in my Ryan folder. My Ryan folder is just like my home folder on my machine. And so once we change into that, you can now see it in the bar there, right? You can see that we're in the dev folder here. Let's see if my highlighting works. There you go. You can see that we're in the dev folder right there. And so the next thing I'm going to do from here is I'm going to make a new directory, and the command for that, that would not work with. No, all of the tools here should work with Ubuntu. You're going to be a-okay. Some of the commands are going to be a little different. My Linux is a little rusty, but I think for the most part, you're going to be safe with the commands I'm using here. CD for sure. Our next command is going to be make directory or mkdir. And then we're going to name this as well. And let's call this, I don't know, we'll call it API role is what I'll call it. That's going to be annoying to type. Let's do Global Hack Week. We'll keep it simple here. Or GHW is what I did. Cool. I prefer Windows for development for my friend who was asking that, just because I have always used Windows, not because I think it's inherently better or anything like that. All right, so we've made our new directory, and then we're going to CD into that directory or change directories into it. And now I can see that we're in the Global Hack Week directory. And this is going to be our home base for this whole project. This is where we're going to do everything. We're going to keep all of our files in here. We're going to keep everything nice and neat. And this is where we're going to be operating for most of the rest of our workshop. Cool. So I'm going to go back to that virtual environment documentation I was talking about. And we're going to start a new virtual environment here. And this is kind of going to make a little space for all of the different parts or all the different little extensions that we install for Python and keep them nice and tidy as well. So we're just getting ourselves set up here. You can literally copy paste this if you want to. I'm going to write it out just for practice. For me, I find typing out the commands myself helps me remember them. So I'm going to do Python-M virtual environment, and then I'm going to name the virtual environment. Here, they're calling it tutorial virtual environment, but I'm going to call it Linux is not necessary to my person who's asking. Great, and then here I'm going to name this. We'll call it GHW again. I'm going to give that a second to think, and I can tell that it's thinking because I don't have a new line down here, right? I don't see there. Now that I have this new line, I can tell that it's done thinking. So we're good to go there. And then the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to activate this environment. So if I scroll down here, it's going to have different commands for both Windows and Linux or Mac. And here I'm going to use the Windows version of this command, but I will paste this into chat again for everybody at home. I'm glad to see there's a fellow typing person here in chat. I appreciate you. And we're going to pop back into command line here. And so there's, let me actually pop back to this documentation. So here I can see that it's referencing a folder. It's referencing a folder within that folder, and then it's referencing this bat file, this activation. And so I'm going to go ahead and run that file, or run that little snippet of code to actually activate this. So if I do what they did, which is tutorial, it's not going to work for me, right? For me, I named this global hack week, or GHW. So I'm going to do GHW/, and then if I hit tab, I can actually scroll through the different things in here. I'm going to find scripts. That's the one that we're going to be using. And then activate is going to be what we want. And then they have that .bat at the end of that there. Mac OS command for creating the virtual environment. I got you. It is going to be the exact same for Mac. So you're just going to use this Python-M virtual environment. And then if you wanted to follow along at home using tutorial environment, that's A-OK as well. Great. I see somebody talking about WSL, but I missed what WSL is. Someone's going to have to fill me in on what that is. Cool. Everyone's helping each other out in chat. I love that. Thank you all. So we're going to actually go ahead and activate here. And then again, I can tell that my virtual environment is activated. I get this handy little global hack week in the corner here, which is nice. Windows subsystem for Linux. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Y'all rock. Is that the Ubuntu on command line stuff I've seen? Or is that something different? What's a virtual environment in short, or VNV, VENV? A virtual environment, the way I like to think about it, is just like a nice, neat little tidy box for all of the different things we're going to install. So we're going to use pip or Python installation something. I actually don't know what pip stands for. Python, it's a package manager for Python, but we're going to go ahead and use pip to install Flask. We might end up installing some things for a database later on, depending on how far we get. And so virtual environments are just ways to kind of keep those tidy if you need different versions for different projects, right? If I use Python in multiple different projects, I might need different versions of Flask or another tool to help me out. All right, so we should be good to go here. If you're stuck anywhere at home, yes, the tutorial virtual environment name is totally okay. If you're stuck or if you have any questions, ask in chat. It seems like we've got a lot of pros in here who can help you out, which is great. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually make sure that pip is working. So for me, I'm going to do, I know I need Flask because this whole tutorial is going to be based on that. So I'm going to do pip install Flask and make sure that that works. It does look like it's working for me. If pip install does not work for you, we might need to install pip, but I think it comes by default with Python these days. Yeah, exactly, like Node, or similar enough to Node Version Manager. I don't want to say exactly. I don't want to get roasted in the chat here. Awesome. All right, so somebody here is saying that they're getting a command not found for Python. This means Python's either not installed or not on your path. I don't know what operating system you're on. Oh, somebody beat me to the punch here. Yes, try Python 3, exactly. See if that works, and then if not, we can figure out some help for you and get Python added to your path. Yes. Great. Everyone following along so far here? We're taking it. Our goal is here to take it nice and slow, make sure everyone's following along at home. Great. Cool. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I know I'm going to use Flask for this tutorial. So I'm actually going to go ahead and grab the documentation for Flask, and this is just their quick start. And we're going to take a little browse of that. Bam. And did we add the virtual environment documentation to our notes? We did not. Y'all got to keep me honest here. We got to add that in as well. All right. So I will blow up the font for everybody at home here. Great. Can you scroll up for a second, please? I'm not sure. Maybe you mean on command prompt. That would be my guess. But it's pip install Flask is the command, if that's what you're looking for. I'll put it in chat as well. And this is live streaming to YouTube right now, in addition to Twitch, and the VOD will be available on YouTube as well as on Twitch, both. So cool. So I'll scroll back down. And again, here I am just taking a look at the quick start documentation for Flask. So there's a more full version of this documentation elsewhere, but a quick start is usually what I kind of lean towards. It's usually kind of gets your hands dirty a little bit faster, is my opinion on it. Oh, the documentation, like I got you. Don't sweat it. There you go. Thank you. All right. So we are going to go ahead and start our own Flask application here. I use Sublime Text, or I'm currently using Sublime Text. If there's something else that you use, like you're a VS Code user or anything like that, that is A-OK. Use whatever text or code editor you like. I'm going to use Sublime for this, though, out of habit more than anything else. So great. And I'm just going to open up my folder here. Cool. And then let me do a little split screen action real quick and see if this pops over naturally. Love that. All right. So we're in our Global Hack Week folder here, and I'm realizing that the virtual environment name is probably a little confusing, being GHW. Oh, and that's probably way too small for you at home. Let me see if I can zoom this at all. View. I'm actually not sure on the zoom there. I can zoom the chat in the editor, but I don't know about zooming the sidebars and stuff. Someone is saying Control Plus, but Control Plus is just for the text itself, not or the editor itself, not for the actual viewfinder. So I see somebody here having that error with pip3 with pip3. My assumption is that you don't have pip installed. Let's see here. Control Shift plus plus, they say. Okay, hang on. Nope, that just makes it smaller. Yes, and so somebody helped me out here. If you're having issues with the pip command specifically, but Python is working, you can try Python or Python 3-m pip. Great. All right, I appreciate everyone helping out here. That is awesome. What to do after you install Flask? Just get your code editor open, and we're going to make our minimal Flask app. And again, my goal here is actually just to follow this documentation to make this really simple and show you how you can do this yourself. I'll do it along with you is kind of my goal for this workshop here, but I want to showcase you, you can just go and kind of parse information, parse documentation like this, and make your own tools and apps and things like that. All right. So I'm going to start with a new file here. So I'm going to do a little Control New, and this is going to be our main application. I know that in Flask in particular, it's usually the best case to just name your app app.py. So I'm actually going to go ahead and save this right away, and I'm going to pop up here and save this in the right folder, and I'm going to make sure that it's called app.py. So if I save that, I'm good to go. Someone's trying to activate the virtual environment. I will link the documentation for you one more time here. That's for Raven. Awesome. All right. And so again, here we are going to go through this code. And one of the nice things about following documentation like this is that it gives us a little description of exactly what we're doing. But we're just going to make this a like our basic hello world, right? So we're going to go through and type this in. Again, I really like to retype because it helps me remember how things work. If you'd prefer to copy paste, that is a-okay as well. Oh, and someone was asking for me to post the link on YouTube as well. I got you. Oh, I had a question here on where to create the .py file. You're going to do that in your folder, in your project folder. For me, it's in my Global Hack Week folder, and I can show you that real quick. If we go in here, Global Hack Week, and this is probably going to be too small. I don't think I can make that bigger. View, maybe like large icons. There you go. You can see my app.py folder, or file rather, is right here in my Global Hack Week one. And no, this new file is not going to be inside your virtual environment. Your virtual environment is going to be inside that folder alongside it. So just like I had there, I had the GHW folder in there. That was my virtual environment, which I realize is confusing by naming convention, and then app.py right next to it. Great question so far. I appreciate y'all. All right. I'm going to change my chat settings to go to all different destinations so everyone gets the same stuff. All right, so for me here, I'm going to do from Flask, and I'm going to import capital F Flask. Okay, cool. And not Flask clients. Then I'm going to do app equals Flask name, and we'll look at what that means in a second. We'll read the documentation. All right, cool. And then we're going to define our first route down below here. A route you can think of as just like a destination on the website we're building, right? Our goal here is to make an API, but we're going to host a web service that people can interact with. And so let's just make this hello world as an example of how a Flask app might work. So at app.routes, and then we're going to do / there, and we're going to define that, and we're going to say hello. I'm going to change mine to hello global hack week because I'm feeling a little cheeky, and we will do a return, and we'll write a little HTML here, and we'll say hello API week hackers. Cool, and we'll close our paragraph as well. Cool, and we're looking good. Can I use JS? You are welcome to use whatever programming languages you like here at Global Hack Week. For this tutorial, I'm using Python just because I really like Python and Flask, and I don't get to code them very often. But you can use whatever you'd like to use, yeah. Ultimately, this will be the back end of our API. Right now, we're just going to make a very simple route, though. We're going to make a front end, I guess you could say. That's probably not true, but we're going to make a destination that you can hit on your local browser. I'll show you that in a second. Great. So we're going to go ahead and save our application here. And so if we take a look at the documentation, I always find that hackers have questions about this third line here, this Flask name component. And we can read a little bit about this here. So it's a shortcut. Flask knows where to look for resources such as templates and static files. Okay, cool. So it's like a little pointer basically for the rest of our application. Great. So good. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually run our, we're going to go ahead and run our application. We're going to run this locally. So we're going to do Flask --app hello run. And I didn't name mine hello. I named mine app.py. You all might have, if you were following along with me at home, you probably named yours app as well. If you did, that is okay. We'll just make an edit to the command here. I do actually really like Python. Famously, in fact, I tell hackers all the time to use Python. I love Python. It's like my favorite language, but I never get to write in it. So I'm enjoying myself here. This stream is really for me. It's not for you all. All right. So up next here, we're going to actually run our server, hopefully. So Flask -app. And then I'm going to do, remember, mine is called app, and I'm going to run it. Okay, and I can see that this is running. I can see it's a development server. Do not use in a production environment. Great. And I can see that there's actually a where it's running here. And I can actually control click this to follow the link. 127.0.0.1 is what's called your localhost. It is localhost. And so then there's on port 5000 is where our server's running. So if I come into the browser here, I'm going to do localhost. And then I'm going to do a port. I'm going to do port 5000. And if I do that /, you can see, and I'll blow up the text for you at home. You can see I have my working website locally here. Yeah, somebody got the output. Awesome. Let me know if you have your server working at home as well. Bam. So I skipped over this myself, but this just so you don't need to install Novas. I'm not sure what that was. I'm not entirely sure what that's in reference to. I think that another hacker might have been helping you out there. It's working. Yes, working. Love it. Somebody said done. Nice. Yes, localhost favorite of all front-end developers. Excellent. Great. I'm glad to see so many people have this working. If you don't have it working, and don't worry, I think a big part of the hacking process is learning and figuring stuff out. At my first hackathon, I literally went from like mentor to mentor, begging people, or begging is probably aggressive, asking people to help me with my code. So if you're getting into issues or anything like that, do not sweat it. That is part of the journey. Yes, this is being recorded. You're going to be able to view it back live on YouTube afterwards and on Twitch. How to see it? I'm assuming you mean your website here. And the way that you're going to do that is you can either go to localhost in your browser, like I did here, or you can go to 127.0.0.1:5000. Either of those are going to work. Yes, there's no place like 127.0.0.1. Awesome. So someone asking, will changes reflect immediately? Let's find out. That's a great question. So I'm going to pull back open my code. And let's change this to, what's this hacker's name? All right, we're going to say hello, yes, KD. All right, and if we save this and we refresh our page, okay, I can see that nothing changed here. But if we wanted to see that change go live, we can, in our command prompt here, we can just hit Control-Z. That's going to end our server. It's going to prevent it from continuing to run. If I hit the up arrow on my keyboard, that's going to bring up the last command that I used. And you can actually do this to scroll back through other commands that you've used as well. But I'm going to rerun our server. And now if I refresh this page, you can see that the change is live. Awesome. I'm seeing lots of people that say, yes, it works. And yes, you did indeed get famous. We'd love to see it. Awesome. All right, so we've got our Flask server up and running. We love that. Let's take a look at our documentation next year. And let's also take a look at our notes. All right, cool. So I'm going to go a little bit out of order for what I planned, if that's A-okay. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stay on track. That seems like I feel like I go off the rails with Mary all the time and get myself in trouble. We'll try and stay on track here today. So I'm going to deploy this to Microsoft Azure. I'm going to use Azure because I know they have free credit for students. I'm hoping many of you get free hosting on Azure. There are plenty of ways to host this for free. If you're familiar with Google Cloud or AWS or something else and you want to use that, or Replit or any of those services, you're welcome to host this wherever you like. I really was impressed with Azure and their GitHub Actions integration. So I'm going to go through and do it with that. You can do that with whatever you like, though. Cool. Oh, literally, someone just asked if I'm hosting on Azure. I will be hosting on Azure in a second. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Cool. All right, I'm seeing a couple of questions. I'm going to do my best to keep moving here. Cool. Have a good night. We will catch you later on. So I'm going to go to portal.azure.com. For me, I already have an Azure account that I'm logged into. If you don't have an Azure account yet, what I'd recommend is you go to hack.mlh.io, and I'll post this link in chat, and we'll go to the software page as well. Bam. And so if you go to this page, actually, oh, look at that. It's literally the top link. So if you go here, you can do build with Microsoft Cloud, and it's going to bring you to this little start free page. As a student, you get, yes, you can also, thank you. Did I click on this by mistake? I don't know if I did or not. But you can get started with Azure right here. You can click on the start free button and get going. And then once you get into your account, you're eventually going to see a portal page like this one. I'm going to give everyone a second to get signed up for an Azure account. I'm going to try and answer some questions in the meantime and take a sip of water as well. Great. Let's see if there's any I missed here. This is also a great pro tip. We're going to be using GitHub in a second as well. We're going to sign up for a GitHub account if we don't have that. Yeah, I can just drop the link directly, I think. Let me do it like this. Let me copy this link for you at home. Bam. And I do want to say as well, like, we do partner with Microsoft, but for this workshop in particular, you're welcome to use whatever hosting provider you like. I personally used Microsoft recently for a Flash project that I liked quite a bit, so I wanted to do another one. Definitely not a requirement. If you've got something else, go for whatever you like. If you're out of university, you may not qualify for the Student Developer Pack anymore, but you should give it a shot. If you still have your student ID or student email address, you might still be able to get it. If you're not eligible for a free account, the hosting we're going to be doing today is very lightweight. I think you're going to be totally fine on the free services, but unfortunately, I don't have an alternative plan for you. Yep, DigitalOcean works great as well. That works totally fine. Awesome. All right, I'm going to keep moving along here. So for me here, I'm going to create a resource. I actually know that we're going to do an app service, but I'm just going to show you the whole thing here. And so I think if you do, oh, it was literally there on the screen. I just looked at it. So we're going to create a web app here. Maybe if we, depending on how far we get today, we might incorporate a database. For right now, I'm just going to do a web app though. All right, hang on. We've got breaking news here. Use Python app.py rather than Flask run and set if name equals main app run debug true and reload when you refresh. We love that. Let's incorporate it. All right. All right. So we're gonna do if name. I know I typoed there, but that's all right. Cool. Name. I need a couple more of these. App run debug true. Am I doing that correct, 404? Oh, keep that line, my bad. Bam, and then I have the memory of, I don't know what an animal with a really bad memory is, but I have it. So app equals Flask name. That's why I try to write all my stuff down. Okay. I think we should be good, right? I think we got it. Oh, and I'm an idiot. I'm just like copying mindlessly here without thinking. Yeah, thank you. Great. All right, let me get back on track here with Azure. All right. All right. So I'm going to hit create here for web app. And sorry, let me zoom in again. I keep forgetting I need to zoom in for everybody at home. Let me make that full screen and let me get 404's comment off that. Great. Cool. All right. So I'm going to just create a new resource group. That's totally fine. If you're not familiar with resource groups, you can read up on them as you like. I'm just going to call this Global Hack Week. I'm going to delete it after I'm done with my project in all likelihood. I'm going to name this. I'm going to keep it simple here. I'm going to do GHW Ryan. This might be a little bit harder. If I do ghw.azure, it's available for me. Someone might beat me to the punch here. So let's do ghw-ryan-api. How's that going to work? Great. I actually don't know, to be totally transparent with you here, King Spirit. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive that this is so lightweight, you're not going to use any credits up. And here's a paste bin. Let's see here. I'm going to have to manually type that because I don't have. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, I think I do have Twitch open somewhere, but BNJ79T0P. Oh, I need it at the bottom. I see. Okay. Whoop. Bam. Great. And then I had everything else right, I think. Yes. Yep, I think so. Great. Cool. By the way, Ryan, are you a backend developer? No, I often describe myself as dangerous with code, more so than being a good coder. I do some light scripting for fun. I love a good like coding like hack or project or script, but I am not a full-time developer by any means, which you probably can guess. So going along with our Azure setup here and our web app setup, I'm going to try and keep myself focused here so we don't run out of time. I'm going to go to Python 3.11, which is what we're running for this. And yes, you can host this wherever you like. Yes. Oh, I'm still missing a debug equals true. Oh, my bad, team. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I was missing. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Trying to do too many things at once here. It's all good. So Python 3.1, Linux is going to be totally fine here. I'm going to say US East, great. And then pricing plans, I'm just going to leave this all basic. Cool, great. I'm going to hit deployment next. So someone's asking where to start. My recommendation, it would be to go to YouTube and actually rewind, and then you can start along with us if you'd like. If you can't use Azure, check out AWS or Google Cloud. Either of those are going to be totally fine as well. Or Replit, DigitalOcean. There are tons of hosting platforms out there, whatever you like. Replit is the other one that comes to mind for me for hosting this. So for me here, I do want to enable continuous deployment with GitHub. This is one of the things I found the most cool about Azure when I was setting this up. So I'm going to use my GitHub account, and I'm going to use my personal stuff here. Can I make a new repository in this? I cannot. So we'll make a new repository real quick. So I'm going to go over to github.com. And I'm going to do this through the web interface for folks at home. I think that's a little bit easier than command line. So that's what we're going to do. All righty. I will share my code. I'll share all of my notes and everything afterwards as well. And so I do want to keep coming back to this. So we did our Flask stuff, and then we did hackp.ac/Microsoft was the link for the Microsoft hosting that we used. And then we're going to go to GitHub and get started there. Are you going to post this on Discord? I will happily post this on Discord. I'll post it wherever you like. Share it with your friends. I need to beat Nick's viewership record. So if you've got people who are interested, by all means. I'm going to go ahead and just click on this new button here. I'm going to not use any sort of template for this repository, and I'm going to make this my own. You probably don't need to select this. This is just because I'm part of the MLH repository as well. And then I'm going to name this GHW, maybe -API or something like that. I'm going to make this public. Y'all are welcome to take a look at it if you like, and I'll go ahead and create repository. Great. All right, so GitHub provides us some instructions for getting this set up locally as well, which is great. We're going to actually follow through with these in a second in our command line. But before we do that, and I'm realizing that's probably pretty hard to see at home still, I'm going to come back to Azure, and we're going to finish our setup here. So if I come in here, I don't see it. If I give this a little refresh, let's hope that this works. I maybe should have reselected my account first. Yeah, I should have. I've made a mistake, team. It's all right. We're going to call this GHW API. That's what I'm going to rename all of my stuff. Okay. GHW API. Great. I'm going to reselect Python. Great. I'm going to hit next for deployment. Great. I'm going to enable GitHub Actions. I'm going to use This is Ryan Swift. That's my personal account. Again, I'm going to use that organization. And we should now see, there it is, GHW API is in there. And there's no branches available. Uh-oh. All right, so we do need to go and finish our setup first. So let's do that. I don't think you need an Azure, or you need a credit card for an Azure account, Gaming Skull. I could be wrong about that, though. So once again, I am just going to follow along with the documentation. I'm going to do my best to type out the commands myself because that helps me learn them and remember them. So I'm going to hit Control-C on the left here in my command prompt to close out. And then I'm going to go through and actually initiate this this repository locally. I'm realizing not everyone has Git installed though. If that is the case for you, we'll do a quick pit stop and do that. Let's let's see here. Git downloads, that's probably what we need. Great. And here you go, you can download Git right there. Great. All right. And let me add that to my notes as well for anybody at home. So let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm realizing I don't have a short link for GitHub, but I think hackp.ac/GitHub is going to be the right one. Let's find out. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Cool. The whole video will be up on our YouTube page right after I'm done. It might take a little bit of time to process, but because of the live streams go out on YouTube and Twitch, I think if you actually head to YouTube right now, Major League Hacking's YouTube page, you can actually just rewind it, I'm pretty sure, with the way that YouTube works. So yes, awesome. So I'm going to assume that folks are downloading Git or have it installed, and then I'm just going to follow these commands that I have here on the side. So I'm going to do, so this echo command right here is going to create it's going to put that text into a file for us. So this is literally going to create a readme.md, a readme markdown file with that, with GHW API as the only line of text in it. But we'll go ahead and follow along with the commands that they give. This one not technically required though, and that needs to be readme.md. Great, then we're going to get init, which is initiate. Okay, I can see that that initiated. We're good to go there. Keep it an eye on everyone. Yes, and thank you someone who linked that YouTube. I'm assuming that is our current stream there. We're going to do git add. And so here, instead of doing git add readme like it says on the right-hand side, I'm going to do git add, I need a git ignore file. Let's follow along with the tutorial as it is then. Well, I'm talking out loud to myself. We'll do git add readme.md. Great. We'll do git commit -m, and this is going to be first commit, sure. Git branch -m main. Great. All right. And again, I'm just following along with my commands here. All righty. And then this one I'm going to cheat with. I am going to copy the URL. I don't want to type out the whole URL, but I will type out the rest. Git remote add origin. Mistyped that, origin, there it goes. Great. And then finally, I'm going to git push -u origin to main. Now, if you're not familiar with Git, there are much, what did I mess up here? Main cannot be resolved to branch. Uh-oh, we've got a problem here, team. Can we just do a git push? Has no upstream branch. Okay, so let's use the command that it's telling us to use here. Set upstream origin main. Oh, is it because I used a capital M? I must have used a capital M somewhere. I think that's what happened. I think that is what happened. Do I have to make the Git repository in the project folder? You do want to be operating in your project folder because ultimately we're going to add the files from that project to GitHub as our goal here. All right, so that created something. So that created something on GitHub for us. We can go back to Microsoft Azure and use that to actually deploy now. Before we do that, though, the only thing we added to that GitHub push we just did was that README file. We didn't actually add our Python or Flask app, right? And so what we want to do is we actually want to add that Flask app as well. There's a command called git, or there's a command git add that we did earlier. And there's this thing where you do git add dot, and it adds all of the files that have changes to your commit, right? The problem that we have here is that right now in our list of files, I'm going to type out dir for directory. We have this file called GHW, and that has all of the different install files for Flask and everything like that in it. And we don't want to include those in our project, right? Those are just local install files. They're not actually something that we need to push up to GitHub. Does that make sense to everybody at home? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a git ignore file, which is a handy little file that is going to tell GitHub what to ignore when we do that git add command. Something I like to do is I use ones that are pre-made. So git ignore Python. Let's see if we can find a good one. Cool. Let's check this out. We use a resource. Shout out to our friend here, Juan, for putting this resource together. And so this is a kind of a common list of things that you want to ignore when you're developing in Python. And so I like to use these quite a bit. I find them to be very handy. Great. I'm just going to copy all of this. Great. And I'm sure there are people out there who have reasons not to do this. I find this to be a nice little hack, and I'm just developing for myself here, so I'm not worried about it too much. Great. And I should link this for you all at home as well. Sending it now, and I will put it in our notes doc as well for everybody who joins us afterwards. Bam. While I'm using it, I love to see it. All right, so I'm gonna come into this here. This is that git ignore that I just copy pasted, and I'm gonna do a, I'm gonna save this, Control S, and I'm gonna call this dot git ignore. Great, and Sublime text telling me to purchase a license. I do have a purchase license. I don't have it on this computer though. I should help them out and get that fixed, but okay. I'm seeing some questions about command line versus the desktop application. You're welcome to use whatever you like for Git and GitHub, that sort of thing. Great. So we should be good to go here. What we're going to do is pop back over to our command line, and we're going to do git add dot and see what happens. And we're going to do git status to see what that pulled. So that did pull in our GHW folder, which makes sense because I realized I did not add it here. And so I'm just going to come up to the top, and I'm going to edit this. And for me, I named that virtual environment GHW, right? And so I'm going to literally just save it like that. And what is the command? Is it git reset? Let's see if that works. Git status. Hey, there you go. All right. So what I did there, just to explain, I edited our git ignore to include GHW, which is that virtual environment folder. And then I saved it. I came back to my command line, and I had already git added all of those files. So I used git reset to reset myself back to nothing added or committed yet. And now I'm going to redo this. I'm going to do git add dot. And if I do git status, I'm hoping to only see that git ignore file and the app.py as well. I can see that that is where I'm at, which is great. And then here I'm going to do git commit -m. I'm going to say adding Flask app. Bam. And I'm going to git push. Great. And so that is now on my main branch. I'm good to go. Again, I'm going to take a brief pause here because I know we just did a bunch. I'm going to kind of check in on chat and see how everyone's doing. Awesome. How do you not include the directory GHW? That is a great question. So in your git ignore file, you just put it, I just put it at the top here. I take that existing git ignore and I add it. And so like if you had renamed your virtual environment as something else, like you maybe called it virtual environment like test or tutorial or whatever it says on that documentation, you can literally type in whatever the file name is up here like that. The git ignore does not have a extension type. Like it's just a .git ignore is how you should save it as. And I can put that in chat here as well. And so it's gonna, I'm just gonna type it out here so you have a visual reference point for it. .git ignore like that. Great questions here. Yeah, okay, here's a great question. In Node, there's a package.json file that a person can use to install all dependencies. How would someone do that in Flask apps? So we'll see if I can do this from memory. We might have to reference some resources, but Pip has this thing called freeze. And I think we're going to use that to actually create that requirements.txt that you're talking about, that package.json. So if I do pip freeze requirements.txt, I think that's going to work as I'm expecting it to. I think that did work. And that's a great call out because we actually are going to need that. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. I don't see that in here now. Do I need to specify where it lands? Oh, I need a bracket. Thank you, 404. 404 is acting as our our Google for the day. I was like really planning on coming into this and showing you all how to do I was like, oh, I'll show them how I use Google when I'm actually developing and stuff. And then 404 is coming in here and just hooking us up with every answer, which is great. So we'll give them a shout out like this. So if we do that again, pip install requirements.txt or pip freeze bracket requirements.txt. And if we come back to our text editor itself, you can now see that this file exists here. Great. And that has, these are all of the, this is Flask and then all of its dependencies as well. Great. Go ahead and hide that. I'm going to come back to command line, and we added a new file. So anyone in chat want to tell me how to get that added to our GitHub page? And not 404, someone who is maybe following along. We have that new requirements.txt file. How do we get it added to GitHub? Really, this is just an excuse for me to take a break and drink some water. Git push, you're in the right. Yep, there we go. We got a couple of people who've got my back. So we are going to do git add, and we're going to do, I can do git status to get a feel to make sure that the things we want to add are there. I'm going to do git commit -m. I'm going to leave a note, and I'm going to say adding requirements. Great. And I should say, like, I probably have some bad development practices. There are much more experienced developers who will be on stream throughout the week here. But I really want to show, like, I've literally at this point just been following documentation and things like that. And so hopefully shows you how you can accomplish some of these things yourselves as well. I do see a bunch of people getting the rest of my commands here. Everyone is correct. We're going to do git push now that we have our commit. Great, and that's up on the web. And so we are going to go, excuse me, everyone. We're going to go back here to our repository, and you can see this repository has our requirements.txt. It has all of our readmes. It has our git ignore, has our app.py. We're looking good on the web. And I will post, let me actually find you. This is the git ignore, I think. And then I will post my repository as well, which, in case you want to grab that. Bam. There you go. Perfect. Okay. So we now have our repository up with all the things we need. I'm going to pull us back to our API, our Azure installation. That's going to be our next step here. So again, I have this Global Hack Week API thing. I'm actually just going to select something else. Let's pick this one real quick. And then I'm going to go back to GHW API. And I can now see that main branch is there. Great. And I'm going to hit next here. I'm going to public access. I do want this to be publicly. Oh, here's a good question. I will take a second, and I'll full screen this as well. Thank you for the call out. So why do we need a git ignore? Without a git ignore, there are, let me actually open up the file explorer and show you. So if I go into my dev folder and I go into Global Hack Week, so I know this is going to be a little tiny at home. I don't know that I can zoom that in anymore for you, unfortunately. So here are the actual files that we made, right? These ones right here, right? These are our git ignore, our app.py, our readme, and then our requirements, right? Oh, my mouse is really freaking out for you all. Can you all see like multiple mouses? That should fix it. The git ignore prevents these extra files, like all of the stuff in here, from getting added to our GitHub page. These are just the local install files so that we can run this application locally. And we don't want to upload those to GitHub unnecessarily. I don't know why the cursor trails in just File Explorer. I think it's only in that application, right? Oh, no, it does it elsewhere too. Sorry about that, team. Not sure why my cursor is freaking out. It might actually be my little highlight tool that's doing it. I was feeling very fancy and I got this highlight tool ready to go, and it might actually be causing problems. So all good. Regardless, though, our next step here, we do want to enable public access. We don't want to enable network injection. We're just going to keep the defaults here. And you can read more about all of these things. I'm going to keep application insights off. Great. Tags, personally, I don't have any tags. Hey, a fellow Power Tools user. Shout out Power Tools real quick. I love Power Tools on Windows, like one of my favorite discoveries. So great. And then finally here, we will hit review and create. Great. And we'll hit create. And so this is going to start our deployment. Our deployment is in progress. We love that. Great. So we're going to give this a second to do its thing. And we can come back over to our GitHub page here. And if we actually go over to actions, I think we can see this in progress. So maybe not. We're going to have to wait until we deploy again. Great. We'll let this do its thing. Give it a refresh, perhaps. Cool. Can we click on this? I'm so zoomed in. I got to zoom out a little bit, team, so I know where I'm looking. All right, overview. Great. Great. And so if we take this default domain, so remember I named my project GHW-API, I'll zoom that back in. So we should be able to just open up this web page and hopefully, give it a second. Oh, maybe not. We'll get impatient. Try this again. Might still be deploying. Oh, it's Osterdude. Tell me more about the stay on top feature. What is that? I'm not familiar with that one. All right, so it doesn't look like our, maybe we need the slash at the end. It does not look like we're deployed yet. So what again here, I'm sure that I would be willing to bet that someone like 404 or somebody in chat knows exactly what issue we're running into here. I'm just going to play around with this and show you how I would actually try and debug and go through this. So for me here, I can see I clicked into this Actions tab, and GitHub Actions is what's deploying to GitHub for us. And so I just want to see like what's going wrong here. If I click into this, so the actions are depreciated. Interesting. Not sure what that means. Let's go back here. This one is still in progress, so maybe we'll give it a minute and see if that one updates. Me no speak Azure. We'll give it a second here. Bam. All right. And I've got to zoom this out again just so I can see where I'm at. Cool. And so I'm going to come back over to the code here. And when you enable that GitHub Actions thing on Azure, it creates this for you. And so we took a look here. It wrote all of this for us. It's going to make a virtual environment. Okay. It's looking for a requirement. Oh, sorry, that's way too small for everybody at home. My bad. All right, so this was automatically created by Azure in our directory. And here I can see that it is going to make a virtual environment. It's going to install the dependencies in the requirements set text. Okay. Oh, hello. I have a special guest here. Am I getting a coffee?
You are.
Thank you. I appreciate it. For anyone who is, I got to hold it over here. For anyone who is wondering, that's what did we end up being our final decision?
Well, there's some contention because Bobo wanted one of the pools, but the coffee wanted the other, and I wanted a coffee.
Oh, so you made the game. You made the executive decision. Yeah. We love that.
You got an iced vanilla latte.
An iced vanilla latte. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Global Hack Week hackers. this treat, 404. This is very tasty. All right. So let us check this out again. If we go back up to actions, hey, and we can see that it deployed correctly this time. Let's give this another shot and hopefully, hey, there you go. It just took a second to get live. And here is our hacker from earlier in the workshop. So what I want to show you real quick before we actually do the APIs component of this, which is going to be our next step, I want to just show you GitHub Actions because I was really impressed with these. I really appreciated how quick it was to deploy. So if we go back to our code over here and we go to our app, this one, I'm going to change this to, we're going to say, instead of hello, we're going to say thanks 404 for all the help. We'll give them 3 exclamation points because we're feeling generous. Great. All right, and then I'm going to go to my command prompt here. I'm going to do git add dots. I'm going to do git status, which is a little overkill, but I just like to make sure. Git commit -m, and I'm going to say thanking 404. Cool, and I'm going to do git push. Uh-oh. Oh, and so here we have an error because there is stuff that is ahead of us. Remember, Azure added something to our application for us, but we don't have that locally. So Git is rejecting our push. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do git pull. We're going to pull the latest from GitHub. Great. If we check the git status again here, and let's double check our file, still looks the same. Great. If we do git add dot git status, nothing to commit. But I can see that our branch is ahead of main right here. And so what I'm going to do instead is just git push, and this should push our update. Cool. So that is our update. I'm going to go back to GitHub here, and I'm going to refresh our action. Oh, I didn't even need to refresh our actions page. Look at that. So as soon as this is done merging, it's actually going to update our live application for us. And that is going to be great. It's going to work well, and it's going to thank 404 on our live version. All right. So while that does its thing, I'm going to pop back over to this documentation. And this is the original Flask documentation that we were using. I'll post that in chat for anyone who wants it. This is API week after all. We've kind of done our setup. We've done the hard work. And now we actually get to write code. We get to write some code at the very least here. So what I want to do is I want to look for examples of other APIs of get and post requests, things like that. If you've never worked with APIs before, a get request is sort of what it sounds like. You're just getting information from an application, and a post request is where we're going to add information to something, is maybe how I'd explain it very quickly. So I'm going to kind of scroll through here. I'm looking for specific stuff that's relevant for me. I don't care about URL building like this, but this HTTP methods is exactly what I'm looking for here. I'll let you always have an app on top. Very cool. So this is what we're looking for here. And so this is for a login route. We're not actually going to be having people log in, but this looks like what we might need if we wanted to do something here. So let's take this code and let's try and put it into our application or something similar to it, right? We're going to learn from the best here and, borrow their information. So I'm going to say, I think I can just do a comma request, if I recall correctly. Great. Because here I'm importing Flask and request both. And then I'm going to keep my regular route the same, but I'm going to add a new route here. I'm going to add app.route, and I'm going to do excuse me, everybody. Yes, that is Power Toys only to Gaming Soul. I was asking about it specifically, is why they brought it up. I feel like I need to link Power Toys now. We've talked about it multiple times during the stream. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to call this routes. I don't know. Let's call it Get Hackathon or something like that. Spoilers alert, we're going to be getting some hackathons. That's my game plan for the API here today. And let's make this a get-only route. Great. So like that, it looks like. Close parentheses. Great. And then we're going to do define. I'm going to call this get hackathons. Great. And then here, I'm going to say, I don't know that I need this if request method equals post, because the only method I'm allowing is get. Let's see if there's another example in here. So rendering templates, maybe not what we need. Accessing request data. We're going to have to come back to this. We do want to do a post request in a second. Here's a get request. No. And so I'm being a little, I'm intentionally looking for an example here, although I can take my best guess. I'm not seeing any others in here, at least quickly. That's okay. We'll figure it out ourselves. And so the goal I have there is like, I'm really looking for an example where somebody else has already done this so I can learn from what they did. Instead here though, we'll just do our best here. So when we get this request, we want to return something. And so we're going to return a variable called hackathons, which is not defined yet. So we're just going to say return, I don't know, hackathons list or something like that. If you were paying attention in my notes here, I had a little block here. We'll grab this. I've made this ahead of time. This is just, sorry, it's actually looking a little small on the side screen. This is some information in a structured way that we're going to use for the sake of our demo here today. I have two different hackathons. I have Global Hack Week API Week, and I have BitCamp. And then for each of those events, I have their start date, their end date, their location, and their type. And if you're wondering where I found this information, I found it on mlh.io/events. Cool, and right there. And I just copy pasted this over myself. You certainly could scrape more data than this, but again, I'm just trying to keep this fairly straightforward and stuff that you could all do yourselves is my goal. So I'm just going to define this in app, which is not the best practice for sure. The reason I'm defining it in this way and not in like a database is because a database is an extra setup step that we'd have to do here. And I want to try and keep this simple again. So my goal is just define it locally, even though that's not perfect. It should get us what we want. Yes, we certainly could use a tool to scrape it. I wanted just a quick example is what my goal here is. So what I'm hoping for here is that when we submit a GET request to this route, it's going to return us that list of hackathons. And sorry, I actually realized I need to change this to just hackathons as I defined it. So let's give this a shot. Let's make a change to our application. And let's make sure that our last one worked. It did. So we can say thanks 404 for all the help. We love that. So if we come back to our command prompt again, we're going to do git add all. We're going to do git commit -n. And we're going to say adding hackathons routes and data. Bam. And then we're going to git push. And that's going to take a minute to deploy while that all happens. Yes, this completed workshop is going to be live on our YouTube page. In fact, if you go to YouTube right now, you can actually watch it back there as well if you wanted to start right away. The VOD will be on Twitch for a month or so as well, I should say. So the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to actually need to submit an API request. The way we're going to do this is we're going to use a tool called Hopscotch. You might have also heard of a tool called Postman. Those are both totally fine to use. If you know how to do this via like a curl request on the command line, you're welcome to do that. I like a tool like Hopscotch or something like that because it kind of simplifies things for folks at home. And so what we're going to do here, let me pull this off screen for 1 second so I don't spoil a different MLH event. And let me make a new request. Bam. New, and we're going to call this GHW API, and I'll put this on screen for y'all in 1 second. There we go. Great. All right. So I'm going to pull this on screen for everybody. And so this is hopscotch.io. I will paste that link in chat for everybody, and I will add it to our notes for any of our friends who are going to be watching afterwards. Let's go back up here. So we did our git ignore. We came back to the Flask tutorial, back to Flask tutorial. And then we did hopscotch is going to be our next thing. Great. So what we're going to do here is we're going to submit a request to our application. So we defined this as a GET request, right? And we're going to pop over to our Azure deployment. If we can find it, there it is. We're going to grab our URL here. We're going to come in here. We're going to put this in. And the route we defined this as, the URL that we defined this as, we can look at our code, is going to be get hackathons. So if we come in here and do get hackathons, do you need to submit anything after this? We're going to submit this on dev post at the end of our workshop to get an extra point. But if you're just following along at home, you don't need to sweat it. If you need to step away, you can submit what you have, or you can finish it up later and submit it before 10 a.m. tomorrow. Ryan, how are your notes accessed after the session? I'm going to post them. I'm going to actually add them to the GitHub just so people have. And for what it's worth, I should have explained probably better. When I do a project for the first time, I really like to take note of all the resources and tools I use because it helps me, I might find a really good answer on Stack Overflow, right? And it helps me go back and reference it later on. And so this is a habit that I've been trying to form over the years because it saved my butt so many times when I'm like, oh my God, there's that perfect answer somewhere and you can't find it again. Have a good night rest. And my friend here, how long have you been coding for? I started coding in 2012, but it is not my full-time job or my profession. I work for a company that plans hackathons, and so I obviously am around code a decent bit. I wouldn't call myself a full-time developer or anything like that. I don't have a formal CS, computer science education or anything like that. So yeah, cool. All right, so let's give this a shot as is, and let's get rid of this. Let's say none here, and sorry about that. I'm just resetting some stuff. So this should be totally blank. The only thing we're going to have in here is just get and the URL. And if we hit send, hey, you can see that this application that has no connection to our Azure deployment, right? This is a totally separate website, returned the information that we were storing, right? So very, very cool. Let me know in chat if your GET request works. I'm hoping that everyone's does work. Yeah, I'm definitely fine receiving feedback by all means. I love a little bit of feedback. I'm happy to hear it. What is an API apart from web scraping? So web scraping, I wouldn't strictly define as an API. I'm sure there are APIs that help you web scrape, but an API is just like a defined way of interacting with a application. So it lets you add data, pull data, manipulate it maybe. It's just a defined way that you can interact with a program. What's the GitHub? I can post my GitHub link again here. Let me grab it. And this is my GitHub that has all the stuff we're doing in here. Also, I do want to shout out as well. My friend here who asked if I was okay receiving feedback, like big thumbs up, awesome job asking that the people on stream are comfortable with that before doing it. So yes, exactly. Like a set of requests that the application should respond to. I think that's a great way to describe it. It's a way of opening up your application to outside use is maybe like another way I would explain it. All right, so our GET request worked, which is awesome. I am very happy about that. Let me get Hopscotch back open. So the next thing I want to do is I want to actually be able to add information to this API, right? So I'm going to write a route that lets us add a hackathon. So let's do that. I'm going to open up Sublime Text again, and I'm going to grab as well this, which has my Flask quick start. And again, I'm just trying to follow the information here to actually go through. So a little insight here. Here's the bit of feedback. The endpoints should not have the verb in the endpoint itself. In your example, the endpoint should be /hackathons, not get hackathons. The get verb should be defining what the endpoint does. That is excellent feedback, and that is absolutely the correct way to do a RESTful, I think RESTful is the term, API. Again, I'm not a professional developer, and I'm not saying this to be defensive. I'm explaining myself. I'm not a professional developer, so some of those really good habits, like what you're talking about here, are not things that I do by default. But we'll make that change live. That's a great bit of feedback, so let's do it. So let's change this to /hackathons. Awesome. Really, really solid and well written as well. Nice. All right, so let's add a post functionality to this as well. So we're going to do post. Great. And now we can't just simply return hackathons, right? We need to be a little bit more clever than that. Let's do a little like this. So now we need to tell if we're going to get a post request or if we're going to get a get request, right? And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to copy some of this code I'm seeing here. So I'm going to do if request.method equals post. Ooh, didn't spell post correctly. Then we're going to do something else. And then we'll do a else. Then we'll return hackathons. We'll assume that it's a get request if we don't have a post request. .404 with the corny jokes. We love it. Great. Awesome. Cool. All right. So here, does anyone have an idea of, or let me ask that a different way. So we want to accept data in, right? Personally, I did a little bit of prep for this workshop, so I'm lying to you a little bit here, but I don't know how to do that. How would you go about like finding out how to do something like that? I'm curious what people in chat think here. I'm not looking for the answer. I'm looking for how you would approach this problem. So we don't know how to add data. We know that we have to send in a post request to receive it, but like, what's the next step here, right? I see somebody asking about blockchain hackathon, so I do need to just drop. I'm almost positive we have a blockchain global hack week at some point this year. And in addition to that, we do blockchain. We have a couple of blockchain partners as well. I know Hedera is one of our currently active ones. But if you go to hack.mlh.io, you can see all of our partners there. Request parameters, yes. I'm curious what the pre and post 2023 answer is. You've got my curiosity piqued here. Let me know. So for me, the answer that I lean to here is like I would do a little bit of Google searching. I would look at documentation, right? I'm going to look again for somebody else who's done this before me. I know that most of the coding challenges that I'm facing as like a relatively new developer or a relatively inexperienced developer are things that other people have probably done before. And here on the Flask documentation, I remember earlier on, we actually scrolled past, so yeah, here you go. So request object. So let's take a look at this. File uploads. I don't really care about files. I thought there was one that specifically talked about data. Yeah, okay, accessing request data. Okay. Okay. So, request, okay. Okay, so data transmitted in a post or put request, you can use the form attribute. Okay. So I'm assuming I can use form here. Your deployment is failing. You're 20 minutes late. If you, let's say, can you post your GitHub? I'm assuming you're in the past, so I'm going to type an answer to you. Can you post your GitHub so someone can help you debug it? Bam. And then somebody here said, I see what you're saying. So someone is saying, do you have the pre and post 2023 answer was using ChatGPT? That is totally fair. I think that's actually a reasonable solution. That is a totally valid solution. I meant the pre-2023 answer then, I think, given that answer. So I'm going to try just this request.form piece here. I'm going to expect that the people are giving me what I want here. Let's see if that ends up being true. That's not quite what I'm looking for. Let me look up another tutorial real quick. Let's do, I really like Real Python quite a bit. And I know they have a decent like Flask APIs tutorial. Let's see if they have a little example of a post request in here. Let's see. So they've got a little hello world. Great. Okay, connections. All right. This is returning data. That's not quite what we want. API documentation they're using something for. I'm blitzing through this because I've actually looked at this tutorial before. If you're like, oh my God, how does he know what he's looking at? I've read through this previously as part of the reason I'm going through this so fast. Okay. Let's look here. Oh, that already gets us to the conclusion. I want to figure out. So the thing I'm worried about, to like talk out loud, I think this is one of my favorite things about watching people code live, is like, so I want to take in whatever this post request gives us, right? So if we take a look again at our Flask documentation here. Oh, did I scroll too far? I did not, right? So I'm going to get this post, right? And then I have an object request that I can call like method on and things like that. But I actually don't know how to add request to my hackathons thing up here. Even if I assume that the person is going to give me the data structured in the way that I want it, I'm actually not sure how to access that, right? So I'm trying to figure out if I can use this request.form piece or not. I'm actually not sure if how that works. Damn. So let's see if we can't find a good example. So like request.files, right? I can see that. Let's take a look at the request documentation. Okay. And actually, let me search on here for like JSON. Okay, responses. APIs, okay. Okay. And this is not quite what I'm looking for either. I'm not paying attention to chat here. Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed what you were able to follow along with. Nothing wrong with that. As you can see, like I'm literally figuring out something live here. That's part of the journey, right? So the reason I'm not using ChatGPT here is because I find a lot of value personally in like reading through the documentation and trying to like being able to solve that problem myself. I'm not like like an AI hater or anything like that. I think that's like a common archetype these days. I actually find generative AI super exciting, but particularly what I'm trying to showcase here is like how I really go through and code and like do things, right? And so for this, I want to like go through and look at the documentation and try to understand how I can get the data off of it, right? Bam. Okay, so content type. So I'm looking for like a data, like, no. I gotta zoom this out a little bit just because I'm zoomed in too much. I'll zoom back in once I find what we're looking for here. Class.request. Okay. Great. Okay. And I'm still struggling to parse that myself. I like the request not please. I'm tempted to try that. I really like that. It's quite funny. All right, so let's do a little Google search, right? So let's do Python, like we'll do Flask accept or like Flask post request JSON, and I'm hoping that Stack Over. Okay, here you go. So this is look at this. We're using Stack Overflow. Love to see it. So request.json, does that actually work? Okay. That's why you see none here. Okay. Okay, you need to set the request content type to apply for the, okay. Okay, okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm saying okay a lot as I'm reading to myself here. You're seeing the reality of what it's like to code with Ryan. Great. Content request.json. Okay, so that should work for us because we want to, add JSON here, right? Okay, great. So let's give this a shot. It looks simpler than it is. Just request.json is what we're looking for here. And then we want to add that to our existing. I script the name, location, date, and image of the hackathon page. I actually don't even have the images. I can show you what I have. I have start date, end date, location, and type are the 4 that I have. Yes. All right. So let's give this a shot here, folks. So here we're going to do request.json, right? And we want to add this to our existing JSON up here. Anyone happen to know how to do that in Python? I've got to get some chat interaction here. I feel like I haven't looked over at you in a while, so we'll tee this one up for somebody in the audience. Great. So the question, oh, my bad. So we know that this request, we're going to assume that our request, you all are good. We're going to assume that our request comes formatted the way that we want it to, which is probably not safe to do in the real world. If we assume that this is formatted the way that we want, how do we add it to this hackathon's variable here? And here's another good piece of advice here. There's a Flask doc that has documentation on all of the different CRUD actions, which is create, read, update, and I forget what the D stands for. Nothing was said to you 404, not directly. Any takers here? All right. Is D for delete? That might be correct. So we've got someone here. It says, okay, we have a dictionary, and then we're going to add a variable to it. That looks right. All right. So let's use this example here. So for this one, we're going to say request.json is going to be hackathons. Can we do it like this? Do we think this will work? Or stringify, dict update. I'm seeing some good recommendations here. What do y'all think of that version of it? I'm missing an E in request. That's my bad. The typo was not an intentional part of the quiz. That should work if request is written correctly. All right. Let's give this a shot then, friends. Let's give this a try. So let's save this. We need to update our application. So we're going to git add all. We're going to git commit -n, and we're going to try, and let me get that comment off screen, my bad. We're going to do our git commit, and we're going to say adding host data or something like that. Cool, and we're going to git push. Oh, we think it's not going to work. Okay, why is it not going to work? Tell me. the question is, so we know that we're going to send in, and let me actually take a step back here. Let me show you all on Hopscotch what we're going to send in so that you all can visualize this a little bit better. So previously we did a GET request, right? So if we change this to a POST request, and then we're going to do in the body, we're going to do some application JSON. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to grab this. That's what we want, right? And I'm going to move that down. That's going to be really ugly, but that's okay. Bam. Oh. Bam. And like that. Yes. Okay, so we've got the right idea here. We're not going to have a key. We need to do a value. So we're going to give our friend a chance here to get it right. Give them a second. So we're going to set up our request here. This is a post request. This is what it's going to look like. And if we want to make changes to the post request, we're welcome to do that as well. Okay, and so they're saying new key as well. Great. All right, so let's give that a shot for them. Great. So we're going to say hackathons. We'll call it new hackathon, which is fine for now, equals. And then we're going to call it request.json. Cool. So let's give that a save. We're going to go back to here. We're going to do git add dot, git commit -n. We're going to call this fixes to post requests. And we're going to git push. Give that a second. That's going to take a minute to deploy. So we'll give that a sec while it does that. And then once it deploys, we're going to hit it with this post request. And then we're going to do a GET request. And hopefully we'll see our new information added. Let's change up the data here, though. Let's just to verify that it works. Let's do a fictional hackathon that's on like the 11th. Sure. Let's call this through the 13th or something like that. This is going to be at GHW Community College, everyone's favorite college. Oh, this might actually be a good call out. Anyone know if we need those parentheses or not? And this is going to be a online only event, I think. No in-person allowed. We'll have some fun with our type. All right. So we'll pull this up. And you said pull up the Stack Overflow again. I got you. So here they just have request.json. They don't have the parentheses there. Cool. And I'm hoping that our website is deployed at this point. So let's give this a shot. Let's see if it works. Uh-oh. Internal server error. Unable to, either the server is overloaded or there's an error. Let's double check that it's actually deployed. Let's go to our actions here. And so it's still deploying right now. And so that looks like why it's down. We'll give it a minute. Okay, just finished. Take two. I was a little impatient. Uh-oh, still getting our server error. Let's try a GET request and see if that works, just to verify that we're up and running, right? So let's copy this. We want to keep that. We're going to say none, and let's do a GET request. Send, and that does work. So we've got something going wrong here. Anyone want to take another stab at how we add our post data here? So this is returning some sort of error. Try the following. Request get underscore data. You got it. Look at us, the dream team here. Let's save this. Let's go to command prompt. We're going to do git add dot git. Oh, you didn't return a response. That is fair. Hang on. So we had just .json before. Is that right? And then we want to just return. We can return hackathons. That is a fair thing to be worried about. Let's do git add dot git status good git commit -n returning things is important. And if we do git push, let's take a look at what happens there. We're gonna have to wait for that to deploy again. Great. After pair programming, crowd programming. This is actually what I do at most of my hackathons when I go. Is like I go walk around to help people with their projects like this. And like you don't need to be a subject matter expert to help people out with like problem solving and thinking through things like this. I think that this is part of what I love most about hackathons is just like, you know, you can go slow, like learn things as you go. Like we're literally going through tutorial, like the most basic stuff in Flask, and we're still learning stuff along the way and having a good time with it. And like, I often see people get overwhelmed by lofty ambitions at hackathons. And so hopefully this shows you it's cool to just walk through and learn what you're doing along the way. All right. Ryan, why are you deploying it to wait and see if it works rather than running it in your own computer before deploying? You could do a request to localhost. That's absolutely valid. I'm just deploying it here to kind of give myself a breather and let me interact with chat, which is a little bit of a cheat just so I can hang out with chat and chat more. But you absolutely could do it locally as well. Let's see if this is still deploying. Maybe. In progress still. Oh, we got data. There's a paste bin there. Let me type that out so I can add it to the notes as well. I gotta do this. I don't have Twitch opened and I can't actually /LDA 5UZ. Let's give that a shot. Hey, there you go. Nice. Do you mind if I add this to my notes? I'm assuming no, but I will remove it here if you don't want me to share it. Cool. Let's go back to our GitHub Actions. Still deploying. Well, the other reason to my friend who was asking about why I was waiting for it to deploy, is that when I was playing around with Azure previously, the GitHub Actions deployments were shockingly quick, and so I was figuring that this would be nice because we could all work off the same application live, but they're going a little bit slower today than they were last time I used it. Bam. I'll answer some other questions here. Maybe I'm blind, but where can I find the list of events for this week? You can go to ghw.mlh.io and then click on schedule here. I'll link that for you. So I see a question here that I'm pretty sure I know the solution to. I wrote the code with you in VS Code, and my IDE says request is not defined. My assumption there is that you actually just forgot to import it. So at the very top here, I have from Flask, import Flask, comma, request. Make sure that you also have that comma request as well. Bam. All right, let's see here if this is still deploying. If it is, we can test locally. Oh, it just finished. Great. All right, so let's get Hopscotch back open here and let's give this one more shot. So we're going to go to a post request. We're going to send it some JSON. I'm going to paste in our data from before, and we're going to send this in. Hey, and it worked, and it returned us our new event as well, which for right now is just called New Hackathon, but we could write some code to, you know, we could change our object definition, right? Like a better way to write this would probably be for these to be unique identifiers and then to have a name field. But we successfully did a GET request and a POST request. We made our own, you know, API here. Definitely very basics, but we did get something working here. We've got a few minutes left. I know you all have been absolute troopers with me. I want to make sure I fill the 2 hours I've been allotted, though. And so as a fun little last bit here, I want to try and do one more GET request. And in particular, the thing I'd like to do is I'd like to do a GET request to see if it's Mary's birthday or not. And it's just going to tell you if it is or if it is not Mary's birthday is kind of what I'm thinking here, unless anyone in the crowd has a different suggestion that they'd like to see. We'll give it a second. Let me check my notes and make sure there's nothing else here. Oh, we should submit on DevPost. We actually should do that more. I think about this. Well, maybe we'll submit on DevPost first, and then if we have time, we'll come back and do the Mary's birthday thing. People are saying sounds good. Yes, cool. All right, so let's knock out DevPost first. That way we get everyone at home a point, and we'll come back and we'll add some extra features from there. How do I submit this same thing on DevPost? Gaming Skull, have I got the tutorial for you? I'm going to show you how to do it live here. So I'll actually walk through it with you, and we'll do that together. So we're going to start on devpost.com, and then we're going to actually log in as well, of course. I'm going to use the MLH account here because I should use my own account, actually, the more I think about this. I haven't used my own DevPost account, and so I'll use the MLH account. It's fine. I will use the MLH account. I'm going to go to the Global Hack Week DevPost specifically. I had this open because I'm on the organizer account for it. In case you don't, here it is. Oh, I see what you're saying, Gaming Skull. My bad. Yeah, so you're welcome to submit my code. Like if you are following along for the tutorial and if you've got it deployed locally, yeah, 100%. The submissions at Global Hack Week were not. It's totally fine to reuse code, and as long as you're attributing it and things like that, you're more than welcome to do that. So no worries at all. Thank you for asking. My bad on misunderstanding your question. Cool. So we're going to create a project here, and I don't have any teammate. 404. What's your DevPost account? And 404. And then who is my friend who gave us the final solution? I forget your username. Where are you at in here? I gotta scroll up. Veeksquim? I don't know how to pronounce that. If you two want, if you give me your DevPost names, I will add you as collaborators here if you want. Oh, I need email. That's frustrating. I can't do it by your DevPost name. All right, we'll leave it be here. We'll hit save and continue, since I can't do it by username, and I don't want to put your emails on here, and then inevitably, for the email. If you 404, if you want to open up a ticket, that's totally fine. Yeah, if you want to share your email that way, I'd be happy to add you. I'll pull it off stream when I actually add you to the project. All right, we're going to write a quick elevator pitch here. This is just a simple Flask API. And I'll be a little self-deprecating here. I'll say API in quotes. You can get hackathons and add new ones, sort of. We'll tease ourselves a little bit. Great, we'll hit save and continue. For project details, we will use this predefined template here. And let me check Discord as well and see if I've got that ticket yet. Thank you. I can't copy your email because it's in a spoiler tag. There we go, I got that. Great. All right, and then let me pull back up chat real quick. I'm going to pop this off screen for 1 second just so I don't get 404 in trouble here. Bam. Send invite, save and continue. Great, we'll get back to our project details. Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I want to give you credit. I want to make sure that you get some credit here. So I feel like you were so helpful. I will happily provide my GitHub link again here. Let me grab that for y'all. Here is this specific project as well. Oh, and they might have been talking to somebody else when they said GitHub. That's all right. I'll get back on track here. So our inspiration was Ryan loves Flask and wanted to do a quick API tutorial. And what it does you can get a list of locally stored hackathons and add hackathons to the list as well. How we built it, we used Python Flask to create our app, and then we hosted it on Microsoft Azure. Cool. Challenges we ran into. What were some of the challenges we ran into? Not knowing how to do a post request properly. Not knowing the different methods we could apply to the request objects. Bam, accomplishments that we're proud of. It works. What we learned, what did we learn along the way? We learned how to solve problems and we learned how to solve problems that we encountered. Great. And then what's next for GHW API? World domination, of course. Built with, so we're going to say Python, we'll say Flask, maybe Azure. I think that's good. Don't forget Tetris is at 4 p.m. Yes, that's why I'm finishing this up right here. So we'll hit save and continue. Great additional details. So we do want to select here a sponsor and special prize. We're going to do create your own API. That is really important. That's how you get dominate, or that's how you get, I'm reading chat. That is not how you get world domination. That is how you get credit for completing the challenge. So, oh, and sorry, I realized I'm really zoomed out again for y'all. Make sure you select create your own API here. Oh, Git and GitHub. That's good. All right, hang on. We'll go back. Good call. Good call. Is there GitHub Actions? We'll say GitHub. And Git, I feel like, is a given. We'll say that. We're good to go. Cool. So again, here, I want to select create your own API. Bam, bam. We're going to hit save and continue. All right. And submit. We did it. 404 and I have just earned ourselves a point at Global Hack Week, API Week here. We are good to go. We're kind of limited on time left here. I want to make sure that there's time for the next streamers to get set up and play some tunes and things like that. So let me pull you. Oh, that's gonna not do what I want it to do. Let me stop sharing my screen first. Let me pull you all over here. I'm just going to ask kind of broadly if anyone has any remaining questions, anything like that that they wanted to ask me. I'm happy to do my best to try and answer those. If they're about this stream in particular, or if they're about Global Hack Week, happy to answer whatever you all have for me. Did I change backgrounds? Or are you referring to my apartment versus the MLH office? Maybe that's what you're referring to? Oh, I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate y'all coding along with me. I think my goal was really to do like a very basic intro kind of walkthrough, like, kind of show you how I do something myself. And hopefully that was good content for y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you want to reach out to me specifically, you're welcome to reach out to me on like LinkedIn or something like that. My assumption, though, is that you probably are trying to reach out to MLH. If you're trying to reach out to MLH, hi@mlh.io is our catch-all email. If you're looking for like a more specific thing, like you want to run a member event hackathon, something like that, we've got different emails for that. So if you tell me a little bit more, I'm happy to help out. Someone here saying, I'm not able to get a job from a long time. What can I do? My recommendations here are like, work on your resume, practice interviewing with friends. MLH really believes in this thing called LARPing, or live action role play. And so what I would recommend here is like find a friend who's also job hunting and role play with each other. Like one of you plays the interviewer, one of you plays the interviewee, and like go back and forth and practice. And like that is the best thing you can do to prep for those. So I'm interested in learning more about Python now. We love to hear it. That's awesome. There's a new Twitter logo. Hang on. Can we do a live check here? We're in silly time. Oh, it's an April Fool's thing, I'm assuming. Someone saying, can we connect on LinkedIn? I accept just about every request on LinkedIn. As long as you have a profile, I generally will accept. So by all means, and I can post mine for y'all as well. LinkedIn.com. Hang on. Oh, I'm not logged in. Oh, I'm in the wrong browsers. Why? Hang on. Sorry, I'm using 2 different browsers here to prevent myself from doxing myself. Let me, bam, bam. All right, here you go. There's my LinkedIn, and then I'm gonna, me and Mary and a few other MLHers are in a minor battle to see who can acquire more followers on Twitter. So if you don't mind helping me out and following on Twitter as well, that'd be fantastic. Cool. Ryan Streamslay, thank you. I appreciate you. The daily challenges have some challenges which are full-blown websites. Are they for the whole week or just day? I don't know if I can build all of them in one day. Thank you. The challenges are definitely meant to be like they're meant for 24 hours, but it's not meant for you to accomplish all of them. We give you lots of different choices, so you can pick whatever's most exciting to you. There will be new challenges for tomorrow. Absolutely, we'll be releasing new ones right at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah, 10 a.m. Eastern time. 2 browsers equals high security. I mean, it's to be totally transparent, it's literally just because some of my stuff is on my personal accounts, like my GitHub and my Microsoft Azure account, and so it's the difference between my work accounts and my personal ones. So, all right, let me scroll through. It's not an April Fool's joke. No, the Twitter logo is not an. Okay, I will read up on that. This is a nice pro tip. The microphone is like on the webcam. We're just using the integrated one. So my apologies there. My apologies. You made a very good API. What a lovely comment to end our stream on. I want to thank you all so much for joining us here. It was an absolute blast. I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me and coding along for this one. I will catch you all for the next stream I'm on, which I think is not until closing ceremony this Global Hack Week. Maybe I'll pop in while some other folks are doing their daily streams or something like that. But really appreciate it again, everybody, and we'll catch you all next time, all right? Happy hacking, everyone.